So yes, welcome Dozy. It's lovely to have you. Let's just get straight into it. So the first question I have for you, could you please tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do at IDA, and why IDA? Just so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, firstly, thanks for having us, Taff. Always a pleasure. I think, my journey, when you look at what led me to IDA, starts, around 20 years ago as such, when you're aspiring young player, obviously looking to play at the highest level like most. I had aspirations of playing at the professional level. And so that started here in Sheffield, right? I think that's a key tie to a lot of our staff, is that everybody has sort of certain links here to Sheffield. It's a special place, synonymous with football. So yeah, I spent time, a lot of my youth trialling at professional clubs, then going to semi-professional at a young age, being told ultimately that you're not good enough at the time. I was a late developer physically, some might say, that still waiting for that development now. But yeah, so I was always someone that sort of pushed the boundaries and wanted to explore and sort of get out there. I think that stems from your parents, really. They always told me that football's not going to last forever, and so having an education behind you is vitally important. My dad had a sort of career engine injury with his knee at a young age after being at the likes of Manchester City. So for me, that meant jumping on a plane to San Jose, California at 18 years of age. Did 2 years in San Jose, then transferred to a school in West Virginia, and graduated for a school in the US. So that's when you start to understand the possibilities of combining education, obviously, a full-time elite environment in what I experienced in the States. I was then very fortunate to go to Spain. I think a lot of players that have been down the collegiate route, they get to the senior year and there's no one knocking at your door, right, saying, and throwing professional contracts in your face. And I think that all stems from my sort of background in recruitment, is being that player that, had to forge my own path. I didn't have any sort of anything that was given to me, and so navigating this tricky world that is sort of professional football and football in general was, where this all started. So aside from obviously my playing career in Spain that lasted 4 years, playing in a full-time environment, I also go on to work in recruitment, start helping families and players, and seeing the rewards of that. And I think, again, that stems from giving players and families the information that I felt I never had to help them navigate their careers. Working in an environment where you had sort of 140, 160 players from sort of 42 different backgrounds, or 42 different countries, should I say, on a yearly basis. And seeing the lure of, obviously, European football. This is the place where everyone wants to be. And yeah, I got to a stage in my life where, I came back to the UK and was looking at what was next. And so you've got these two experiences where, I've been in the collegiate system, I've seen the power of combining education and high-level football, and obviously being in an elite environment in sort of Spain, in an academy system there that saw a lot of success. And so ultimately I was looking at something that could sort of combine the two. It's no secret here in England, I think we've got the best leagues in the world, the best coaches, the best infrastructure. And so really for me it was, at this stage of my life and my career, it's about working with good people, like-minded people who share similar values. And that's where I bumped into Chris and Spencer, who had this idea that they wanted to provide this opportunity here in Sheffield, at one of the world's best universities, in the University of Sheffield. And I just bought into it. And sort of, the rest, they say, is history. It started off as a conversation around a coffee table, and now we're here on at the beginning of shortly to be the second season in IDA's history. Looking at 3 teams for next year. The success that we've seen for players like like yourself and others, and that's what led me to IDA.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there, but that's amazing. It sounds like a beautiful journey, and I'm sure you're only getting started, especially with your scouting regime. But yes, you did speak a lot about your playing career, and I would just like to delve into that a bit more. What would you say was a couple of highs from your career and a couple of lows that you personally felt that you went through as you were playing football?
Yeah, so I love that question because, when I talk about my playing career or sort of talk to younger players, like the first thing that I instill in them or I try to share is that it's going to be a roller coaster, right? It's never this straight trajectory, or at least for the majority of players, it's not. So a lot of my youth career, I'm playing at a high level grassroots, getting to a semi-professional club at a young age. And like I said, I was invited to trial by the likes of Scunthorpe, Doncaster, I think I was in 3 times. Sheffield United I had a trial with, and Sheffield Wednesday, all for short periods. And I think you go from the ecstasy of being invited into these clubs, you know, thinking, you know, I'm going to do it, I'm going to be a professional footballer, to quickly being brought down to earth and being told you're not good enough for one way or another. And you know, for me, as you know, I'm not the tallest guy now, and I certainly wasn't back then. And so the physical element, sometimes being told that you're not good enough for reasons that are outside of your own remit, is things that are the most, you know, it's the most bitter pill to swallow. But I think, you know, just a renewed focus on you know, controlling the controllables. So the technical ability, I always thought, you know, from an IQ perspective, I was always a lot higher, or that's where my strengths lie. And so my journey has just been, you know, doing as much as I can, getting to a level, being told you're not good enough, setback, going again, and just rebuilding. And I think that's, you know, made me into sort of the character I am today. And yeah, I'm really fortunate at the end. You know, I'm sat here semi-retired or retired. Played in 3 different countries. You know, got a senior promotion in Spain. You know, managed to score in the semi-final and final. You know, being in America, state finalist. You know, when you really unpack it, I'm proud of what I've done. And I'd like to think I squeezed every drop out of my playing career for as long as I could. And now I'm really passionate about helping others do that now.
No, that's amazing, honestly. So yes, so you are really passionate about helping people, and that is rather interesting. I just want to know, what made you specifically go into scouting? Like, you did say that you always had in the back of your mind that you needed to have education alongside the football, but when did it get to that point that you thought, now I want to use my expertise, all the things I've learned, all my experience, to now go and aid players who are looking for that same opportunity that I once yearned for?
It really started when I went to America, because naturally, like, you do something that's a little bit out of the norm. At least when I was going through that process, it wasn't the typical pathway. And so I used to get a lot of messages, a lot of players, you know, asking, how do you do that? You know, what advice would you have for me? And it really started there on an informal basis. You know, later when I graduated, that turned into a career, where I was helping players, you know, on a professional level and guiding them through, you know, start to finish. And what you find is, you know, parents, they talk about this for parents sometimes, where kind of parents live through the kids, right? And there's sort of a part of me that helping these guys, it was achieving stuff that maybe I wasn't capable of achieving. And so that's what really drove me. And I think at the end of that, you know, when you really break it down what recruitment is, it's helping play a small part in a player's life and journey. And so, you know, I take the most pride now in seeing those boys go on to be successful. You know, not all are going to reach the professional level, not all are going to go to Division 1 universities, but the life-changing experience that comes with what I've done over the last sort of 6-7 years is the thing that I get a kick out of. So yeah.
No, that's wonderful. That's amazing to hear. So, yes, just to swiftly move on, do you think it was hard for you to let go of the player mentality when you were becoming a scout? Because I know there's a lot of things you think of as a player, but as a scout now you have to think a bit more. You have to kind of remove yourself from that situation and not think as the player. You have to now think as a scout. So was it hard transferring and transitioning to that, or did you find it easy? And also, what kind of mindset did you go in once you started the process?
Do you know what? I've got a little smirk on my face, and I'll tell you why. Because I was always the player, as I mentioned, coming up as a smaller player, more technical. And I'll go out onto the pitch now, and the game is so physically demanding at the professional level. And so one of the first things that I look for is a level of athleticism, size, all that different stuff, because you do have to be exceptional if you're smaller. And sort of such a contradiction of what I believed when I was younger. And again, you know, it's just that change to be in this side of the table, so to speak. You know, I think being a player certainly helps, because it allows you to identify things that, you know, if you've not played the game, or you know, if you've not been around football, that you might not be able to see. I think psychologically is such a big area in terms of seeing how a player makes mistakes, seeing how they recover from that. And being a player, I remember times that I was scared to get on the ball in certain situations, and I wish I could go back in time and kind of shake that young kid up and tell him to be brave and get on the ball and make mistakes. But yeah, certainly when you understand the intrinsics of football, what goes on behind the scenes, the cutthroat nature, you start to really become a little bit sort of not colder in a sense, but you realise that not everybody's cut out for this, and that's absolutely fine, right? But as a player, I think or as a scout or in recruitment, what you quickly find out is there's a lot of players who are in love with the idea of being a professional footballer, much more than what it takes.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, once you cross into this, you're aware of that a lot more.
No, wow, powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. So yeah, moving on to the scouting process. So obviously, like you said, how it started with you and IDA, it started off with a coffee talk, little coffee talk. Same thing happened with me here at IDA. Started with a coffee talk between the two of us. So I just want to know, what do you look for in a player? What did you see in me? And what did you see in, you can use examples if you want to, but you don't have to. Just what do you look for when scouting for IDA?
Yeah, for IDA specifically, I always say it falls into 3 different categories, right? And before we even get to the 3 different criteria, the first one is how can we help you, right? So can we actually help this young person become a better version of themselves? And everybody, as you'll know, is on their own journey with that. We've got guys that are studying full-time at the university. You've got others that are here because they've got serious professional aspirations and we feel we can help with that. You've got others that are here for a gap year and we're helping them transition back to a high-level institution in their own individual country. So it all starts at where can we help you? Secondly, once we've identified that and we really believe that we can add value and help you achieve, your goals or at least work towards that, it then falls into the 3 criteria, right? The first one, if you're studying, it's academics. Do you meet the academic profile to get into the University of Sheffield, who are obviously our chosen academic partners? If you don't, can we still help you? Because you look at all of our staff members here, everybody has been at the professional level, either as a player, coach, backroom in Spencer's case. And so we're always looking for that personal development because we realise like football's not going to last forever and we want to help players on that journey. So, academics is first. The second one obviously is playing ability, right? So do you have the qualities in your particular position that we look for? Do we feel that, again, we can help you get better, and do we know the areas that you need to improve on? And are you going to be able to deal with the demands that get put on you here at IDA? Because as you'll know, we enjoy coming into work every single day, but it's not a cakewalk, right? We pride ourselves on the intensity that we put into the sessions and the quality that we provide. And of course, everybody comes here with the aspirations to play in the big showcase games and stuff, and that, that's no joke. We're not going there, it's no gimmick, we're not going there to take nice pictures and put it on our social media. We go there to compete, and we've beat a lot of professional teams this year. So, and that falls into the last one, right? The third and final characteristic that we look for, and it's not to be confused as being any less important as the first 2, is character. So you look at why we bring someone like you in. Firstly, why can we help you? You've been at a professional academy system when you were younger. You had your fair share of injuries and setbacks that, again, you're still very motivated to overcome, and we believe we can help you with that. Obviously, you're helping out now, maybe not academically, but you're involved in the media section of the company. We're helping you develop on a professional and personal level from that side. Playing ability, you're a fantastic player. You've got a lot to offer as a centre midfielder, very powerful, technically very proficient and very smart player. And third, character. And I know you'll blush when I say this, but if you look at our dressing room and our locker room this year, everybody's a great person, and that is such a rare quality, and it's because we put such an emphasis on who are we bringing into the programme in terms of the person and not just the player or the student. What families are we bringing into the programme? We always say, we're a big family here, and again, it sounds really cheesy, gets used all over the place by a lot of people, but here it means more than that. And I remember on the first day of the presentation, we set out the non-negotiables, and one is, or one of the most important ones is, we look out for each other. So they're the characteristics that I look for, which ultimately put us in a bit of a niche. Not everybody fits into those 3 characteristics, but I think one of the reasons that we've been so successful, not only because we've got fantastic coaches that help you develop game schedule, infrastructure, but it's also because we start right at the beginning by setting the precedent. If you're coming in here, these are the expectations and this is what you need to live up to.
Nah, facts. That is 100% true. And the development side is very, very, very factual, because we're not only developing, like you said, we're not developing people just to be good footballers, we're developing people to be good people. And that personal development alongside that football, perfect. Like, that's what you want out of this program. You want to make sure that these young men, no matter where they come out of it, whether it's professional contracts, whether it's doing well academically, whatever it is, we know that we've developed that person into the man that they are today. So yeah. Yes, onto the next. Okay, this is a double whammy right now. So, can you spot a future pro in minutes, or does it take a bit of time? And the second question is, how do you balance stats and data to the eye test? Because nowadays in modern football, stats and data are so important, but sometimes it may, stray away from what you actually visually see, because someone's stats may not be great, but then them themselves are a great player.
Yeah, it's a good question. You can spot talent in minutes, you can't spot a professional in minutes. That takes a more comprehensive understanding of the person behind the scenes. You've grown up in the professional academy system. How many good players do you know that never, or great players that you would have said when they were younger, never really reached that level?
Yeah.
It also depends on their age. What age are you at as a player to make that judgment? I think huge decisions that are made on players at sort of 10, 11, 12, 13 years of age, they're nonsense, right? Because you get a lot of late bloomers, and you get a lot of players that are really good youth players, but as they go, they struggle to adapt to the men's game and the jumps that happen there. But talent is one of those things that I do believe you've got to have an eye for it. You've got to understand the demands of the modern day game and what's needed to be successful, and you don't get that just because you think that you've got a set of criteria and this is how it is. You get that through constantly having conversations with people at different levels, understanding what they look for, looking at the players that are being successful. So that's a moving, it's a moving checkpoint every single time, right? But there's so much that goes into being a professional, much more than just what you show on the pitch. It's, I think Billy's one of his, sayings is it's a 24-hour profession. So you're training for 2 hours a day, and what you're doing outside of that. Now, stats, have become, a really, really important part of, and data in general have become a really, really important professional recruitment. I interviewed or did a podcast with Chris Robinson, who used to be the head of scouting at Chelsea, and he talks about how, scouting's moving in that direction, really, because time consuming and budget consuming, right? You can assess, thousands and thousands of players, playing all different parts of the world. You look at the midfielder at Chelsea now. Caicedo, and how he got recruited from the Ecuadorian league, right, to come and play in the Premier League, and that was data driven, and ultimately, it's a gamble that paid off in the millions, right, for Brighton. But it doesn't tell the full picture, right? And that's why I'm always banging into the boys now. It's like details, right? We can be satisfied with winning a game of football. And coming away 5 or 6-0, and you might look at us on the sideline as coaches thinking, why are they getting onto the boys and so on. For me, I'm always having the conversation with wingers, forwards. You've got to be getting assists, you've got to be scoring goals, because that's the reality of how it works. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, that is how football works nowadays. And so you could be 5-0 up, but as a forward, have you got on the score sheet? Have you got an assist? If you're a centre back or in the back line, a goalkeeper, have you got your clean sheets? Have you got your appearances? Have you got your minutes? And these are all important factors. So there's a combination of the two. Again, it doesn't tell the full picture, but it does go a long way to helping you, further your footballing career.
No, it's very, very nice. Okay, so what do you think? Wait, let me rephrase that. What makes IDA different from any other academies? Because as you can see, there's a lot of academies in the UK. A lot of academies that try and offer this similar experience, but what makes IDA stand out?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's one that actually in my position I get asked quite a lot. I think it's a multitude of different things. I think the holistic approach in terms of caring about the person first, that person first mentality. It sounds really cheesy, and young players won't value it, maybe parents more so, but that is really important to us. I always say, my favourite, sort of phrase on calls with players is, if we've done our job properly, we should be a stepping stone and not the end destination, meaning that players that come into this programme should aspire to use it to get somewhere. And we've talked about that being either professional football, semi-professional. We've talked about careers in the game and different different outcomes that can come from a programme like this. But there's a genuine care not only from you coming into the programme, but where you go when you leave us as well. I think that sets us apart. Everybody's going to say this, right? Every good programme, but the detail on the grass in terms of the development. If you look at our squad when we started this, as strange as 9 months ago, to the level that we, I think back to the Dorking Wanderers game. I think back to TNS, where they've got 6 senior pros on the pitch, and we turn up with this bunch of misfits that goes and beats them 2-1 in Wales, you know, and so on. It's just the development is scary, and I don't know if that's down to just the level of coaching that's taking place or everything around it. But we can guarantee players when they come in here, they are going to leave better players and better people. And third is the exposure, right, that you get with a program like this. I don't think any program, and I might be wrong in saying this, but I will, go out on my shield is. We've had 6 players that have signed contracts or to go and play overseas this year in Sweden. You've had 3 players that are on been at professional clubs in Austin, Leon and Nathaniel that went to Barnsley. You've got 13 of the 23 players in the squad that went to play with semi-professional men's teams. Like, we are trying to provide real opportunities here. And that's take away the fact that you've got, Ethan Wright that's going to be studying biomedical science. You've got Lucas Reisenmay that's going to be studying mechanical engineering. I could go through the list. And that's what makes us special. Yeah,
nah, wonderfully said. So yes, this is kind of want to think of a bit of food of thought. Do you think social media has hurt or helped youth development in terms of, like, my generation, my era? We were the first to have social media, so obviously we're the fresh faces of it. But do you think it was a positive or negative or a mixture of both?
Youth development, that's another really interesting question. From a development standpoint, I suppose there's a lot more distractions now, you know what I mean? There's a lot more criticism that comes young players' way at such an early age, and you put yourself out there when you're on social media to be criticised by your peers. On the flip side of that, there's a lot of opportunity that comes with it as well. True. You get young ballers that are putting out the clips and getting noticed because it goes viral, or because they're putting out crazy highlights and stuff. So from a developmental standpoint, it's difficult to comment. I think, there's always been distractions. There was maybe a bigger sort of, party scene or pub culture when, when we were younger and stuff, with players going out, maybe that's, got less, but maybe the social media piece is more. I think the biggest thing that's hindered is personal development in terms of young people being able to go into a dressing room now and just interact and assimilate to their environment. I see so many young players. When you were a young player getting called into a senior squad, it was like you were so nervous. You weren't the loudest in the room, but you're making a real effort to interact and sort of learn as much from the senior players. Whereas now it's a little bit of you go in, you're on your phone mentality. You don't want to be seen or noticed, and so from that standpoint, I think maybe a hindrance. But I go back to it. The world has never been as connected as it is now. So in terms of opportunity, networking. And getting your name out there, it's never been easier in essence. So I think there's 2 sides to that coin.
No.
How would you say? I mean, you're a young footballer that's got a big social media presence. So, how would you answer that question?
So, I agree with you in terms of it's a bit of both. Because obviously, when I was at Sheffield Wednesday, I was putting out my clips, my highlights, this and that. Of course, you get noticed, you get a lot of attention, you get views. So people know who you are. They know your name, this and that. But of course, that obviously comes with hate. And me personally, I'm able to handle that. I don't really respond to that. But I can see how damaging it can be for other players, because you losing confidence can totally affect your game. It doesn't just affect you outside of football. Now it's affecting everything, because you have these thoughts in the back of your mind. So that can be a hindrance. But in terms of connectiveness, like all the people that I've met through social media, all the footballers, all the people my age, we just knew, even before we played each other, we know of each other. And then when we finally meet, it's kind of like a full circle moment. So it does keep the players connected. But if you buy into it too much, if you're too worried about what people say, or you can't handle that type of pressure that comes with it, it can be a hindrance to your career.
Yeah, I'll tell you that the other elephant in the room, and we went through this the other day, you sent me a profile of a player saying, James, you should look at him. If your socials are, if you want to be a professional footballer, you've got to live the life of a professional footballer. So if you're posting crazy stuff on your socials, stuff that people look at and think, this guy's not serious, like it can go against you as well. I think you've got to be very conscious of that as a young player. If you want to be treated like a professional, you've got to act like it, and you've got to present yourself like it as well. So socials are really important,
Of course. I think it's, like you said, it also is important just kind of being self-media trained, because me being online for that long and having that online presence, it kind of taught me to media train myself. I knew what I was putting out doesn't only reflect me, it reflects the club, it reflects IDA, it reflects Sheffield Wednesday. Wherever I was at, I'm an active representation of who I'm playing for.
Yeah.
And I need to best represent the club as best as I can. So it's kind of having that conscious thought, okay, this is what I'm posting, okay, would the club be okay with this? Just always knowing that you want to represent yourself in the best light possible. So if you do something that can hinder that, it can really, really affect 100%. Your chances. So, yeah.
I did a piece of content on this the other day where I genuinely think that, young players can benefit from the power of social media in terms of, I do think you should be getting your name out there and sort of self-promoting, because I've seen it myself. I played with a player called Lucas De Paula that's massive in Brazil. Thousands of, I think close to 100,000, if not over that now, subscribers on YouTube.
Wow.
And every time we used to play on live stream, there used to be 3,500, 4,000 people watching just off the back of him. Kieran Higgs is another one. I could name drop quite a few, but it brings so many eyes to the football club, and what eyes sort of convert to in one way or another is income, right? In terms of whether it's shirt sales, live, merchandise, whether it's people watching the games, etc. And so I get asked quite a lot from parents, what's your thoughts on that? And I think, like you say, if you're educated on it and you monitor it and it's done in the right way, it can be such a powerful tool. And I've seen it in some cases. You've got two players that are a similar level, but one brings more in the commercial aspect.
Exactly.
You're tipping the scales in your favour.
Like, people need to remember football is a business at the end of the day. Like, you're not only selling your actual skills, you're selling yourself in terms of how can I make myself look as good for the club as possible. Yeah. Like, if you're bringing in shirt sales and everything, like you said, the club will actively look at you and be like, this is the guy we need.
Yeah, and can I just say one hot take? Football isn't fair. It never has been, and it never will be, right? So, like, when you talk about the business, there's so many factors to consider, and there's so many players that feel hard done by in the fact that, I haven't been given a chance or an opportunity. Football doesn't owe you anything. Of course. Right? Yeah. And so, like you said, football is a business at the end of the day, and the quicker you understand that, the better sort of starting point you're at if you're looking to chase it as a career.
Yeah. So, swiftly moving on, I know this is very, very cliche, but it has to be asked. If you could go back in time and give yourself, younger self, just one piece of advice, just one, what would it be? And what do you think?
I love this question, right? Because I've thought about this a lot. Obviously, I've done a lot of podcasts myself, and I'm always asking this question, but I don't think I've ever gave my answer. My answer would be, understand what you do well and focus on that. In terms of, when I was younger, I was too guilty of trying to do too many things perfectly. I think when you look at the modern day game, and even down to non-league football now, managers' sort of livelihoods, careers, they're putting food on the table, right? They're getting an income. What they want to do when they put a player out there is know exactly what they get for that player when he's in the starting 11 or when he's playing. So, if you're a winger and your role is, I get the ball, good few touches, and I put the ball in the box, and you've got a big number 9 that obviously scores headers, and if you can do that on a consistent basis with quality, then you're getting brought in for that value. If you're a defender that is not too gifted from a technical aspect, and you're trying to play between the lines and you're making a lot of mistakes, then you're gonna it's gonna be a tough road for you. And I'm not saying you just got to boom it and not work on those things, but I think as young players you've got to really know, who am I as a player. The amount of times, Taff, that I get players and they come to me and say, well, I play right back, I play centre mid, and I can also play in the wing. When you get to a senior age, moving up there, it's good to experiment when you're younger and be versatile, etc. But when you get moving up to 18, 19 years of age, you've got to know what you bring to the table and who you are and what your strengths are. Of course, work on your weaknesses, but above all else, this is who I am and this is what I bring to the table. It's something I believe in strongly.
And just to add on to that, that's fairly interesting, because I completely agree with that. And I think one thing I would tell myself is make your strengths your super strengths and make your weaknesses strength. Because once you have a strength, like say for example, I am very technically gifted on the ball, I need to make sure that whenever I get this ball, no one is getting the ball off me. And of course, if I make a mistake, that's fine, but you need to have an identity, like you said. If you don't have those things that stick out, if you're just an average player, you're coasting around, you're just fitting in, you're never going to be seen. So you need to make those strengths that you have super strengths, because if someone sees you and they're like, wow, no one can get the ball off him, 100%. You're more of an attraction to scouts, to coaches and everything, and it makes you a more attractive footballer to be picked.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just on the back of that, absolutely. And that is one of the most difficult things for young players. It's to get rid of that fear of making mistakes. Like I said, I remember trial games where I just didn't want to make a mistake. I wasn't focused on doing things right and standing out. And let's be honest, like when you're trying to break into professional football, even if you're as good as what they've got, it's not good enough. You've got to be better.
Of course.
And I think you look at the players like Lamine Yamal now, and you look at Huijsen at Bournemouth, who's just about to go to Madrid. Like these players are so young, they're playing at such an elite level, and they're just not afraid to make mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah, they play their way.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter who they're playing against, whether it's their mates on a Saturday or they're playing like in the Nations Cup final last night. Yeah. I just look at that. How dare you? You know what I mean? You're like 17, 18 years old, and you're playing like without cares, and I think that's such a special talent. You know? Of
course, and it's so wonderful to see, because long are the days gone where coaches say you need experience. Because Lamine Yamal, he's 17 and he's arguably one of the best players in the world right now. And it just goes to show presenting yourself well and making sure that you play your way. Like, he's not scared of anyone or anything on that pitch, and that's the mentality that footballers need to have. You need to be fine with making mistakes, but not happy that you've done it, but what you do after. So you make the mistake.
It's the easiest thing to say. It's the
hardest
thing to do.
It's the hardest thing to do, because as footballers, always like, But yeah, let's get moving on. So, okay, these ones are just a little quick fire round, right, just before we get to the last bit. Yeah. So, who's the best player you've played with or against?
I wasn't ready for that one. Do you know, I've played against a lot of professional teams, you know, and stuff like that over the years. There was a player, when you talk about like sort of class, he wasn't necessarily in his prime when I played with him, but a bloke in Spain that I played with was a guy called Charlie Maltman, who was at PSG when he was younger.
Wow.
And played with the likes of Ronaldinho and stuff like that. And just in like oozing pure class, I think, you know, he's one that sticks out as just being sort of, you know, up there. You know, Nicky Travis was a good player, but I can't give him. Do you know what? It's so hard, and I wouldn't like to give that to one player, because every player that you play with in your career at different points in their career make you who you are. And again, playing against, you know, I've played against some fantastic players. It's such a difficult question to answer, Tom. I'm not prepared for that one.
No, it's fine. It's fine. All right, we'll go on to the next one. I won't give input after these. It's just straight after you. So, who's the most underrated baller that you've scouted?
Again, there's a few that spring to mind. I'm working with a boy that's in America at the minute. He's gone into his last year this year. We managed to get him a big transfer to UNC Chapel Hill. You know, obviously one of the sort of the biggest collegiate programs in the States. I remember watching, his name's Carl Frogson, and when I watched Carl, you know, he'd just been released from Mansfield Town at sort of 16 before scholar age, and he wasn't the best technically, but you could see this guy just mentality. He's a mentality monster. You know, that phrase gets coined quite a lot these days, but just knew he had the work ethic. He went, he started at a Division 2 program, moved to a Division 1, you know, moved on from FAU, and now he's at North Carolina. He's somebody that I think will go along the way. And he knows I've got a soft spot, and I have to mention him, but I do think Nathaniel this year is, from where we brought him up from being told no at Shrewsbury and stuff, and just looking at like raw talent alone, you know, he has been fantastic for us this year. He's a player that we've got a lot of hopes for, but yeah, two off the top of my head that I think they'll go a long way.
Nah, it's great. Watch out for those ballers, guys. Yeah. You heard it here first.
They owe me a $5 after this as well. Shouting them out.
Okay, bit of a more fun one. What are your favourite boots of all time?
T90s have got an honourable mention, haven't they? Because just like iconic. But
true.
Mine was the Ronaldinho boots. I don't know what they. I remember they were the first like serious pair, Ronaldinho or Stevie G, the Preds. I think Ronaldinho, when he came out with his new signature boot. I remember having them, and it was around the time that like Joga Bonito and all that sort of stuff was coming out. But I don't know what the name of the boot is itself, but yeah.
Nah, okay, nah, thank you very much for that. All right, we're going to go into this last segment. This one is called red card, yellow card, or play on. I'm going to just give you football things, and you tell me whether you think it's a red card, yellow card, or play on. So you're the referee. All right, the first one, not stepping on a club's badge.
Yellow card.
It's a yellow card?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I get the idea behind it, but I think some people take it a little bit over the top.
Hey, if you say so. Okay, VAR.
Red card.
Red card?
Get rid of VAR.
Wow.
I'm telling you, it's like football is moving in such a direction now where like it's losing its essence, you know, in so many aspects. I just feel like people are looking for a reason to make life more difficult for referees and just like to make it more robotic. Red card absolutely every day of the week.
Okay, fair enough. All right, holes in the back of the socks.
Yellow card. I can, yeah. Again, if you're someone that's got bad calves or something like that, maybe I can, you know, anything that's going to be a 1% to get you to hell. But when you're doing it for a fashion statement and stuff like that, it's got to go.
Okay. Inverted fullbacks.
Love it.
You love it?
Play on.
Play on.
Play
Oh,
on.
that's a very hot take.
Do you know why? Because fullbacks get a bit of stick, like it being the easiest place to play on the park. Mm-hmm. So coming in and showing that they can still ball out and stuff, I rate it, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Replays being scrapped.
Do you know what? Again, I'm going to have to go straight down the middle, yellow. One reason is because the pros are playing way too many games now, and that's something that I'm against. I think it's going to eventually drive the quality down, and it's just too. You know, Christmas every day, it wouldn't be Christmas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
And then obviously from the non-league club aspect, creating money generation for these clubs and feeding into the lower levels of English football. Mm-hmm. You know, you hate to see it go. So both sides, I can see a reason for and against.
Fair. And okay, last one, instantly taking off a runners-up medal.
Play on. I love it.
You love it?
Winners mentality, yeah.
What?
Yeah. If you're not first, you're last.
That's so loser mentality, in my opinion.
You reckon?
Okay, of course you're not happy that you've lost, but I feel like that's kind of disrespect to the competition. Imagine World Cup, you brought your nation to finish second out of everyone in the world, and you just take it off.
This is a mentality question. Do you feel more the same or less if you finished second or you went out in the group stage?
Okay. My reasoning is more off the basis of this is memorabilia for me to go and win it next time. It's not a thing of, you should, like, of course you've lost, but you should still be proud of where you've come from. Because if you start beating yourself up constantly after losing, you're not going to help yourself
I just think nobody remembers runners-up.
You'd be surprised.
You look back on that medal and say, yeah, we didn't quite do it. So you can be proud of it afterwards, but I understand in the moment.
Yeah. But you say that, but everyone remembers Mbappe's performance in the World Cup final. He scored 4 goals in a World Cup final and came second, and he kept his medal. And I respected that. I was like, okay, I hear it. He's still in the moment, obviously upset. You're not happy. But at the same time, I think it's an even better mentality to keep it on because you're not following the crowd.
Play on.
But thank you very much, Dozy. It was a pleasure having you. And yeah, we hope to have you again next time.
Hi guys, thank you very much.